in the chat. Tina, as a reminder, we have educators from the Maricopa Community College District, Western Arizona and Central Arizona. And we have high school educators from West Mech, from the Phoenix Union High School District, and also from Chandler. And we are just delighted to have you with us this morning. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So as Kathleen said, my name is Tina Slankus, and what I wanted to cover today is what we have as far as cybersecurity here in Arizona. Arizona is really an exciting place. We have, I'll go ahead and I'll get into this a little bit, but we have everything here. And that's what I wanted to bring to your attention. As you think about cybersecurity, we're not Houston. Houston has oil and gas. They have a lot of oil and gas, but in Phoenix, we have everything. We have an oil pipeline. We have electric companies. We have water companies. We have defense industrial-based contractors. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means and what questions you can ask and who you can reach out to as far as cybersecurity and opportunities for you and your students in the Phoenix area. So this is a question and answer time. So I have one screen with my presentation and one screen with your faces. So please pop in, interrupt me. The first part of the presentation is going to be Arizona and the Arizona ecosystem. As Kathleen said, my previous role, I was the cybersecurity coordinator for the state of Arizona. So behind me, I just emptied out my office at my client site, was able to bring my Super Bowl picture. So I was recruited by the city of Phoenix to be the cybersecurity coordinator in preparation for the Super Bowl we had in 2015. So I was one of the co-leads for the public safety as we went to prevent lights flickering as we had in New Orleans, if you remember back in 2013. So we wanted to make sure that everyone, all of our critical infrastructure partners knew who to call if something odd happened in their environment. It was a very exciting time. It allowed me to get contacts throughout the community, as Kathleen said, and what we learned in Arizona is we can have the best plans, but if we don't have any bodies to implement the plans, this is a problem. So this is why Kathleen and I, how we met and this is an area of passion for me because I can come up with the best response plans, but if there's nobody to help, then we can't really implement them. And now we're going back to kind of what is the floor? What is the minimum that we can do? I love this quote. This comes from the Arizona Cyber Talent that Kathleen and I worked together on. We're at war. The good guys are losing. We need bodies. We have a negative unemployment. So what I wanted to do is, this is the latest heat map from CyberSync. You can get, again, from that same website from the Chamber Foundation, an idea of where we're at. We are the second darkest. We have over 13,000 jobs that are currently in the Phoenix area. And I'm actually going to see if I can switch screens or switch names here. Since I'm sharing, I can hopefully do this. So for Arizona, if I were to go down, we are the low demand. It's a 2.1 is the national average for Arizona.
I think you're sharing the wrong screen. We're seeing folders, OneDrive, Accenture.
Yep. Okay, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me share screen number 2. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. It's hard for me to share my stuff.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to me because my information was showing on the top screen and you were not seeing the top screen. So thank you for letting me know that I was not sharing the right thing.
Thanks, Tina.
Okay. So this is the heat map for the country. As you can see, Arizona is in the second lowest category. our second highest category, I said, as far as concentration of jobs, we have over 13,000 cybersecurity jobs in the state of Arizona. But here's where the brass tacks is. We have 13,000 openings with 21,000 people employed in the workforce. We have a demand ratio of about 1.7%, where 2.1 is the demand here. We have a negative unemployment is essentially what I'm trying to say. Our location quotient, we're at 2.0, which means we have a huge concentration of opportunities, but we don't have all the bodies we need to fill those jobs. Help. That's why we wanted to talk to you. That's why it's really important. The other thing that I wanted to show is, and I'm hopefully, Kathleen, you guys are talking about the cybersecurity workforce framework from NIST and NICE.
We have not talked about that yet, but we will.
Okay, when you talk about the framework, so cybersecurity is kind of like information technology, and I know that you guys are familiar with both. Not one size fits all. Not one job describes the entire market, the entire environment when it comes to cybersecurity. So the National Institute of Standards had a consortium that created the cyber education, creating a framework so that we can talk about what the pathways might be to fill positions within cybersecurity. Before this was created, you were trying to talk apples and oranges across organizations. And actually this framework was created and evolved during the time that Kathleen and I have worked together. So when we talk analyst versus engineer versus governance, these are words that mean something in cybersecurity. But even those definitions were not common. If I talk to United Healthcare, a large employer here in Arizona, Wells Fargo, another large employer here in Arizona, SRP, APS, General Dynamics, their definition of an analyst, an entry-level analyst even, or a SOC analyst, varies within the organization. They have job descriptions, but they may not have job families. And it definitely varies across industry, across companies. Even within, I'll use financial services as an example. If I were to talk to Charles Schwab, American Express, Wells Fargo, Desert Schools Credit Union, of what an entry-level analyst job is, it would have been different. Now, here in Arizona, what we've tried to do is work with both the hiring managers in HR as well as the security leaders and the security community to say, can we at least pivot on the NICE framework so that at least we can have a conversation with you in the school saying, this is what I'm looking for. And within the framework itself, when you get it, it does have the KSAs, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities at a variety of areas. Sorry. Let me kill this. Apologize. Dave, I can't talk to you. I had thought I had killed that. We're gonna apologize. Close window. Here we go. Real time. Makes it exciting. Make sure I have quit. That's what happens. When you work virtually, everything is virtual. Okay. I think it's gone. Okay, but it gives you those knowledge, skills, and abilities so that you're able to train and identify what is the entry-level knowledge that someone has to have. What sort of skills do people have to demonstrate or have through internships and other sorts of experiences so that we can have people that are hireable, that they can be employed, leaving our programs or have a roadmap or a track to what other things they need to experience from high school to secondary, as they go through their experience and exposure. So that's kind of what the framework gives us to allow us to kind of go forward. And this is on the HeatSeek CyberSeek site. It's kept up daily or regularly. There's feeds from job sites and things that allow them to have this analysis. This was something that they did as part of that particular program. So just wanted to introduce you to those tools and just to kind of frame out what the gap is that we're facing here. So we're so glad that we're doing this because this is important. Arizona, as I was starting to say earlier, if you were to overlay every critical infrastructure, we have every critical infrastructure here in Arizona. I had a friend of mine who said, you know, everyone says, well, why is Arizona so important? Why do we care about this in Arizona? He said, you know, we're not the biggest defense industrial base. Yes, we have Lockheed, we have the military bases, we have a lot of activities going on in Tucson and out at Luke Air Force Base with research and development programs, things like that. But we're not the highest concentration. If you think defense industrial base, you're thinking Washington, D.C., just for example. We're not the biggest financial services place. If you're thinking financial services, you're probably thinking New York City. We're not the biggest, you know, insert area here. But what we are is a combination of the whole community. So if you put where the power companies are, and the defense industrial bases, and the oil and gas, and the logistics, and manufacturing, and mining, and minerals, all of a sudden, Phoenix becomes very important because there's a big dark dot focused on Arizona because we have them all. And in addition to that, the state of Arizona considers stadiums and venues, hotels and resorts as critical infrastructure as well. So when we talk about cybersecurity jobs, you know, not everyone wants to be pulled into technology, Google's and PayPal's, and you think of .coms or areas like that. Some folks really want to protect the environment and want to work in school districts, or some folks want to work in nonprofits, Goodwill, Chicanos por la Causa. Every organization has a cybersecurity department. Some of them are large, several hundred people. Some of them are small, where you might wear two hats as director of IT and security. We have them all here in Arizona. So when you think about the job market, if you think about context and you're trying to explain cybersecurity can be a law firm protecting their technology, their digital data, their collateral, their client attorney privilege. It could be a hospital protecting against ransomware so that they don't take out the scheduling system, which will prevent the hospital from operating. Colonial Pipeline, what happened there? The pipeline wasn't taken out. The pipeline was fully functioning. All of the industrial controls were fully functioning. What was taken out was the ability to meter and monitor payments, but it was more than that. They couldn't determine how much was taken out. So logistically, they couldn't determine how much was being used to make sure that the flow was there. It was the financial side. You're right, Mr. You're right. It was financial, but it was more than that. It was financial with logistics, which prevented them from being able to manage their logistics and be able to work downstream to let folks know what was going on. So when they shut down the pipeline, they shut down the inputs from the refineries, which don't have storage tanks. They shut down the inputs from the crude sources, which did have storage tanks, and fortunately had enough capacity to stop it. If they didn't have that, it would have shut the entire supply chain. So when you're in cybersecurity, it's the technology associated with it, but it could also be the logistics and the supply chain that could be impacted. The Target incident was very similar. They actually came in through heating and air conditioning And because there wasn't a separation between their operating systems, their building systems, and their business systems, the hackers were able to get into Target from their heating and air conditioning system, jump over to the business network and infiltrate their environment that way. So it's a fun project. It's a fun problem. We need problem solvers more than anything else in this environment. And that's kind of where we go. Okay, before I move on outside the ecosystem, are there any questions, concerns, comments, thoughts? Now I can go deep or wide in this topic. Yes, go ahead, Donald.
Hi, there's a report that was put out by CompTIA at the national level that listed all 50 states and what their needs are from IT through all of the different markets, hospital or healthcare, financial. Have you seen that? If not, you can drop that in the chat because that might be some good information to look at as you compare that to the state of Arizona and what you have in terms of what the needs are and how Arizona is being targeted. When I say targeted, being looked at from an industry perspective to be a place where a lot of businesses are looking to come here because of our environment and the situation that we have.
Yeah, well, the reason why we have a lot of companies, please share that, and that way Kathleen can get that information. We have no, other than heat, we have zero external threats from a environmental perspective. And when I say threats, Florida, East Coast, they have hurricanes. Midwest, they have tornadoes. California, the West Coast, they have earthquakes. We do not have those natural disasters, which is why a lot of data centers were targeting Arizona for building up the data centers. Well, that progression has grown into security operations centers. A couple of years ago, we had 12 to 15 companies bringing in their security operations centers into Phoenix. So when we're talking opportunities for folks, and I talk entry level, an entry level SOC analyst, there is a plethora truly of opportunities for folks to be able to get those entry level positions that then can expand to other areas. The conversations we're having with the four-year institution students are, you don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to work for a government three-letter agency. Might you consider staying home? Because we have DHS here, we have FBI here, DOJ, we have, city, county, state, and federal agencies that are here if you're looking at doing public service, being a public servant. But we also have Google and Apple and Microsoft and list the .com here, in addition to startups where Beyond Trust and Swim Lane and other cybersecurity companies are here in the Valley doing research and development for the latest trends and ways to protect the environment. So you want to go traditional, you want to do startup, you want to work in the public sector, we got it all. That's the really cool thing about being in Arizona. I myself moved back home. I'm originally from Arizona. My family's been actually in Phoenix since the 1920s. But when I returned, I had the opportunity to move back to Arizona. That was one of the things I looked at. If I lost my job, would I be employable? And the answer is yes. Choose an industry. I work in critical infrastructure. As you can see on the screen, hopefully, there's a lot of options and opportunities. My peers in InfraGard, as an InfraGard member, are the CIO at the Coyotes, the CISO over at APS and SRP, the CISO at Schwab. You can go across industries. The CISO for the city of Phoenix in the state of Arizona. So yeah, there's a lot of breadth and depth. So yes, Donald, that article will be useful for Kathleen, so we can make sure that we're sharing it across the different groups that are working on workforce development. Right?
Thanks, Tina. Any other questions before Tina goes on and talks a little bit more about the ecosystem and cybersecurity at Accenture? Okay.
And if you come up with questions later, please feel free.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about my new company. So I was a cybersecurity coordinator for the state of Arizona. I got promoted. I was the deputy director for Homeland Security and Emergency Management for the city of Phoenix. And I got a call, and I had this opportunity to work for a firm called Accenture. Didn't know much about it. Now know a whole lot more, and I'm thrilled to be with the organization. So what I'm going to talk to is, what is cybersecurity at Accenture? What sort of areas do we do? My specific area, which is managed security services, which is providing security operations, primarily to critical infrastructure, but larger clients. And then, why did I choose this company? So we'll go into that. So we're one of the top cybersecurity firms in the world.
Just 1 second, Tina. Should we still be seeing the slide from CyberSeek on your screen?
You should see it, but let me.
No, is there another?
No, I'm gonna.
That's fine.
You see it now.
We've had some issues. That's beautiful. Thanks.
Okay, great. Then that means you didn't see the previous one. Just a second. This is the critical infrastructure slide that I thought everyone would see. This is all the different types of critical infrastructure we have.
And we will be getting we'll be posting the presentations to the Dropbox. So I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but yeah, we didn't see this one.
Okay, no, so when I'm talking critical infrastructure, no, seriously, I'm talking critical infrastructure. Healthcare, public health, transportation systems with the light rail, you think about the trains, buses, defense industrial base, food. Yuma is the breadbasket of Arizona. It's across all areas. So when I did cybersecurity presentations in Yuma, I was talking to the Yuma Proving Grounds from a defense perspective, but I was also talking to the farming and manufacturing plants. You think about the impact we had with the romaine lettuce a few years ago when they had the outbreak. A biological outbreak, similar to what we're facing today with the pandemic, could be devastating to the food industry. They had to get rid of a lot of their lettuce because of the outbreak they had with salmonella. So thinking about the impact from the physical to the cyber, we have a lot of crossover if we think about this in the space. And again, adding stadiums and venues, I mean, we host major events. That's why I was recruited to the city of Phoenix. We did the Super Bowl, the college football playoff, the NCAA Final Four. We're getting ready for the next Super Bowl, the next NCAA Final Four, the next women's. So we had the men's NCAA Final Four and the women's we've won. So we have major events coming here. We have the Waste Management Open, major golf tournament. We have the Barrett-Jackson car show. We have spring training. All of these are venues that could disrupt and impact the reputation of the United States being safe and cause huge impact, not only to Arizona's economy, but the US economy. So when I talk about overlaying, this is where that dark dot hits, because we have each of these. We may not have the largest of each of these, but we have all of them. And it's one of the uniquenesses for Arizona. So, okay, now we'll go into Accenture. So again, one of the top cybersecurity firms in the world. Very exciting to be invited to work. Just kind of wanted to throw some things out there. Average years of experience is 22 years. That's across the board. We have folks that have been in Accenture for 22 years. We have folks like me that's been part of Accenture for 2 years, but I've been doing cybersecurity for 25 years. Okay, more than 25 years, but anyway, a while. So again, I can answer questions at all levels, but just wanted to kind of let me do some eye candy and say, it's been really cool to be invited to work for this organization, specifically in the cybersecurity realm. The other cool thing is my organization looks at growing to determine where else can we impact and affect the market. Some recent acquisitions, 2019, we did Deja Vu Security, which does application security. They partner kind of in the application resource space. How can we create some protection in that space? Last year, we acquired Revolutionary Security, which does operational technology. So you think about the SCADA space. These are the guys that protect some of those big guns in that critical infrastructure area. If I'm looking at who knows how to do OT operational security, RevSec is one of the large players in that area, and they're now part of Accenture. They're part of my peers. The thing I really love about working for Accenture is I'm working with my peers in the industry. So when I have a question and I ask the Microsoft security folks, I've got the folks that are working with the product development team to create the next iteration of Sentinel or Microsoft Defender ATP on the endpoints. And they're working with the R&D folks and the product folks to say, here's what we need to have. This is what we're seeing as a trend so that we could collaboratively improve products in areas like Microsoft and other areas. So it's really kind of cool, but this is we continually are looking how to improve and how to bring to bear some improvements to the market. So where are we? We're a global company. So I joined Accenture October of 2018. My client is a local client here in Phoenix, but we were supported from Prague in the Czech Republic and from India, both in New Delhi and in Bangalore. So I had the opportunity to take my CISO to visit the team. Well, visiting the team means we were traveling. So we took a week and we took British Airways to Bangalore. My team from Delhi came down to Bangalore. We spent 2 days in Bangalore, talking through meetings, visiting the Fusion Center, visiting the Innovation Center. We then flew to Prague, to dinner in Prague, and the next morning we spent the day with the Prague Fusion Center and innovation team. They were primarily doing our threat hunting and kind of endpoint detection and response capabilities. So we talked to them, and we also talked to a part of our organization out of Dublin, Ireland, called the DOC. It's a collaboration space where you can co-develop with clients and Accenture to say, I've got a problem. So one of the recent, well, it's 2 years now, but one of the innovations that they created out of the DOC that's now a product out on industry was a way within identity and access management to determine what is the scope of the identity issue within our organization. How many groups do you have? This is usually a pretty manual effort, and this is where most identity access management projects die, is trying to figure out how big is my issue? How big is my breadbox? So Accenture, working with one of our financial services clients, created Project Zoran, which is basically a crawler that determines, here is all of your identities within your organization, and here's some logical groupings. And if you were to pull up a group, say security, for example, how many people are in the security group? And you'll have, let's say, 150. Well, 100 of them have the same credentials, the same access, but these 50 seem to be more in the mainframe space with a little bit of cybersecurity. And what you come to find out is maybe they were former security people that now moved on to the mainframe group. And they had, no one cleaned up their access. No one cleaned up what they should have access to. That's, again, usually where a lot of identity projects fail. But Accenture, working with their financial services client, created this tool that allows them now to solve this problem that they have. And we can do that for any sort of problem. This is where the scientists work with the business to create new solutions that don't exist out in the market. So again, it's about a 2-year-old product now, but it is something that kind of makes a unique space, but they're busy doing these things all the time. So gives you an idea of kind of where we are. Delivery center.
Can you talk a little bit, just for a second, using that example, about the kinds of backgrounds? I know that this is located outside of the US, but I think, again, bringing to life all of the different kinds of roles in cybersecurity is really valuable. So if you would just take another minute, I don't mean too
Yeah.
deeply, but maybe share the kinds of people who were able to create those kinds of products and the backgrounds for all of them as we think about the
Well, I'll talk
education.
consultants and I'll talk what some of the unique centers we have globally. So someone working at Accenture, you could be, as I said, at Accenture for your entire career, because right out of college, you can, or during college, you can be hired as an intern. And so as you're going and getting your 4-year degree, typically between your sophomore, after your sophomore year, maybe after your junior year, you get an internship. And as an intern, you're going to be, if you decide you want to do cybersecurity, you're going to come into cybersecurity, you're going to do your internship with cybersecurity. Let's say you do well, you get a second internship or you get a job offer for the next year to come in as part of the either consulting class, analyst class, or technology class. Those are different tracks within the organization, but that's different things that you could be brought in as. So you come in as the level in the organization is analyst, but you could be a consultant analyst, you could be a technology analyst, and you'll come in and you'll do work in those different areas. As a technology analyst, you're going to be focused on learning technology. So you might learn about SIMs with Splunk or Sentinel or log analytics, or put in SIM here. You might learn about firewalls. You might learn about put technology here, Microsoft security. You might learn about Linux security, SAP security. As a consultant, you're going to be working more on the strategy and process side, but on the strategy and process side related to security. So I'm going to be security centric as I go through this. So coming in, you can be tracked in either way. The great thing about Accenture is if you decide you want to do something else, you can move over. We allow folks to move back and forth, which is again why we have folks that have been with the firm for decades, is because I started here and I moved there, and I get to experience a variety of things.
Thanks,
As an
Tina.
analyst, no problem. As an analyst, you kind of move up. You get some experience. After a year, 18 months, there's an automatic promotion from maybe an associate analyst to an analyst to an associate consultant. In the consulting area, you're now a promoted person. You're not a doer, but you might be consulting on projects. You're expected to have gone through a variety of training to get to the next level, where you're now leading solutions, but you're an individual contributor. You might have a team that you work with, but you're not probably leading a team, but you might be driving a solution. The next level is associate manager or manager, where now you're starting to lead teams. So if you're looking at the traditional route from the consulting perspective, the people that are customer facing, that's where you go. Within security at Accenture, we also have two different roles. One would be an internal role. We have our own IT shop. We have our own CISO. We have our own cyber team. So we have things that we deploy to our 500,000 or more consultants globally that we have to deploy. We're a large company, very large global organization. How do I make sure that my laptop endpoint is secure? How do I make sure that I keep up with my patches? I've had lots of interesting conversations with my IT department, as I'm primarily on a client site, not anymore because of COVID, but my laptop wasn't getting the updates. I'm only using my laptop at work, but it couldn't get through the client controls. How are they going to handle that problem so that I can keep up to date without having to add extra hours in the day just to do patches? So these are challenges that the internal organization faces. But then we have other special people. These are our researchers. So the doc, as I mentioned, has scientists. Our Fusion Center has, we have a whole intelligence team, an incident response team. These are expert practitioners that are very deep in their knowledge of their trade, their area. So we have former FBI agents that are now analysts working for us on threat intelligence and cyber intelligence, taking information from different sources and coming up with information to be shared across the organization and with our clients. We have those scientists that are doing R&D in a variety of areas. what solving those big problems, working with the clients to come up with solutions. So again, even within our own organization, there's a variety of areas. I'm in management. I run major programs. I run large organizations. My peers in the Valley would be CISOs. That's who I'm on par with. I'm consulting to one CISO, but that's the level I'm at, where I can run programs across many different technology stacks or many different ways, bringing operations, architecture, and governance together to deliver and reduce risk to an organization. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, no worries. So again, around the world, it's a lot of fun. And being on the call, this morning I had a 5 a.m. call with 4 of my peers across the organization. One lady was out of Chicago. I had a guy out of Moscow, Russia, and another gentleman out of Hyderabad, India. The guy in Russia does strategy for oil and gas and mining and minerals, kind of resource clients. The gentleman in Hyderabad does operations outsourcing. If you think about business process outsourcing, payments, and large business processes, that's what he does out of Hyderabad. The lady out of Chicago is a SAP implementer. So she does large scale ERPs across organizations. So, okay, oops, nope, that's right. Okay, so what do? I like this slide because it breaks cybersecurity. This is kind of going where Kathleen was hoping, into different domains. So strategy and risk. How do we determine what the impact is to an organization when it comes to their operating model? How do we talk to boards of directors and executives on the impact of all of these hacks and things to the organization? Cyber defense, breach readiness and response, incident response. You think about the folks that are responding to those incidents, they're in that area. Digital identity, I talked about identity access management. How do we help organizations manage identity in their organization? So it could be as simple as Active Directory or as complex as a CAT card. Using that identity, that card, to be able to track somebody from when they come in the parking garage all the way to when they insert it in their computer. So you can have tokens, you can have a whole lot of identity in this space. And who are the employees, the contractors, and the customers? In this world today, especially post-COVID, identity might flow. Your identity of who you are for your company might be now a customer for another company or a contractor for a third. So you think about identity in that space. Application security, this is where you talk OWASP. This is where you look at how do we build safe applications. This is where the executive order comes into play, where the government is working with defense contractors to define a standard for minimum security for operating with the government. How do we make sure we have a secure code base so that it cannot be manipulated in the space? And then finally, managed security. My area is managed security services. I should have gotten rid of the box because I actually do all of these, but we'll just focus on the exciting, sexy stuff is in the managed detection response. I run firewalls, I run controls. I have an incident response team that monitors around the world. So it's kind of a fun, sexy world. My coworker ran application outsourcing for the same client. I'm talking to the FBI. He thinks I'm like a James Bond sexy person. And I'll go with it. That's not what we do. But sometimes my partners in technology think it's pretty cool that I can have the FBI on speed dial. I would prefer not to have the FBI on speed dial. I'm just saying. But in my space, it's a team sport. We have to work with everybody involved. A lot of it is the analysis, being able to take data and look for the anomalies within the environment. How well are my firewall rules doing? How are my alerts within my SIEM doing? Am I reaching the 10% true activities through true positives versus false positives in the environment? so that I'm effectively using my team and turning around the alerts into tickets and things to investigate. So this is kind of where we work. But again, just as you saw in the overall security space of Accenture, we manage that space in operations. So I run operations. I don't design. I work with the client to design what the controls are. But when they make the controls operating and I have to make sure they work effectively and efficiently, that's what I staff for. That's what I bring my team towards. And I can breathe. If you guys have any questions, I'm counting on you to interrupt me if you have any. If not, we're going to get to the end real quick.
I have a
Go ahead.
question. Because I don't know your world, so I apologize, it's really like low level. So you have acquisitions and you manage the secure enterprise. How does that work with the people that you acquire? Does somebody oversee what they're doing because they're a part of you? Or do they act separately? How do they report? How does that work?
Oh, for the acquisitions, they become just partners in the organization, additional resources. So with the revolutionary security acquisition, as I've had questions, we've done some innovation days at my client where we want to talk about operational technology security, SCADA security, process control security. So when I'm reaching out saying, who are the experts in this area? Oh, they're part of my team. I can reach out and talk to them. I can reach out to talk to other people. They're just part of now the pool of people. It's an and within the ecosystem of my environment. So if I'm trying to staff a role and the best person comes from one of those acquisitions or one of those areas, I have access to everybody so that I can bring the best person to fill the role on my team. So they're just kind of plugged in to solve problems.
And Tina, I know that you have a hard stop at the half hour, so I just want to make sure if there's like any more slides that you want to cover. I'm delighted that we want to encourage questions. I just want to make sure that I'm respectful of your
The
time.
rest of it is the human side. So there's a reason why I chose Accenture and why I say I'm drinking the rainbow colored Kool-Aid. I didn't add that yet, but yeah, we'll cover that. But let's hit the hard technology first, and then we can talk about, I want to talk culture, and that's why I'm here. So Donald, you have a question.
Yes, so we have a teacher here who teaches software, and I actually did software development with your company back when it was called Anderson Consultants.
Yes, okay.
So I have a long history with you guys.
You're an alumni, great.
Yeah. Anyway, can you talk about cybersecurity and how you guys are working to bring cybersecurity into the software world? Because the picture is, it's through software how these people are getting in. That's how they're getting in. And they're making the software and how the software communicates on the network.
Right. So as you can see on this slide, in my space, we're looking at data privacy and security. So where's the data? How's the data protected? How do you look at the data? You have platform application security and secure software development. So on a platform perspective, you look at where does the application actually reside within the technology stack? Have we secured, if you think about cloud, you can have the best application out there, but if the platform it's residing on is insecure, you can go around the software controls and get to the hardware or get access to it through the network or other vulnerabilities on that particular system, operating system or network system. And then you have the secure software development where we're actually looking at how do you integrate within the development process to determine through requirements, through actual coding, code checking, as the developers check in and check out their software, are they adding bugs to the environment or are we providing secure software? We do a variety of things, both within SAP or within the some of the other development platforms where we integrate within Ellipsis some tools like checkmarks, for example. And again, it just integrates within the Ellipsis code library, code repository, where the developers are doing their coding. So they check it out, do whatever they're going to do, check it back in, and it'll say, hey, you might want to look at that cross-site framing vulnerability you just added. Here's a suggestion on how to fix it. So it depends on how you, where you go, but within our environment, we do that. will help the organization, if I go back to the consulting slide, where we will help them with specific API security. We might help them create a whole enterprise application security program, thinking DevSecops. That's been a very popular term these days, but what does that mean? Do I have a secure container where that code is developed and run so that the whole ecosystem is secure? Am I working with my partners with vulnerability risk management, with the third parties where I'm checking their code? Depending on my industry, I might look into those. So it's one of those things you can, what problem are you trying to solve for that particular client? And we have a variety of areas that we can look.
Tina, one more question on technology really quickly. You and I were both on the ACT together. There were many discussions about the use of artificial intelligence and what that meant for across the spectrum. But as it relates to developing talent, one of the things that we talked about was, does it do away with entry-level jobs? I'd be interested in your thoughts about and how Accenture as a company and you bringing skills to the table are looking at artificial intelligence as part of the solution sets that you're bringing to your clients.
Right now, we're not to the point of artificial intelligence, but we're looking at automation. So one of the things I can do is if I automate, I bring my systems together so my analysts have a single pane of glass, that saves time. So now I might have fewer people that can do the same amount of work, because now instead of having to research and pull things from 10 different areas, it's provided to them in a single screen. The other thing that I can do with automation is I might have an automated playbook. Say if I see an email from this bad source or this bad domain that comes into my environment, I might automatically take a particular action associated with it. Now I don't have to have a person determine, okay, I got this email, it came from a bad source. Now I have to hit a button to make it go. I can automate that particular area. So what we're looking at right now at the level of automation we're at is being able to reassign those folks to take on additional volume or do additional intelligence on areas. So instead of only doing a light touch, we might be able to go deeper in a subset of the tickets we get, because a certain set of the tickets are have automation associated with them, with defined path and activities that have been tested and confirmed that they work.
Thanks.
So we're not getting rid of, the computers aren't getting rid of the people, but the automation is allowing the people to be more effective. Great. Okay, I'm going to go on then, I hope. Okay. So the thing I love about Accenture, and the reason why I work for Accenture versus other organizations, is the culture. We talk about being truly human within Accenture. And what that means is it's our values, our beliefs, and our behavior. Just like all of you, you chose to work with whoever or for whomever you do because it's the right place for you at the time. As a manager, I describe a three-legged stool. You'll work for a company as long as it works for you, it works for your manager, and it works for the company. So for me, working for Accenture, the truly human environment of body, mind, heart, and soul allows me to bring my whole self personality to work, allows me to do cool stuff like this and talk to you, but also be able to solve hard problems. So for me, the community aspect was a big part of why I love working for this company, as well as the connection I have internally. I said I work with my peers, but I work with my peers who are also as dedicated to the organization as I am. So that's kind of exciting. So this brings the culture to life. You know, how do we bring our values and beliefs together? What behaviors are we looking at? We have a lot of training on trust and respect. And this is, independent of your background. If you think about India, they speak 200 different languages in India. They have many, many different cultures that go back and have had conflict for millennia. But yet they all work for a company called Accenture. And we're expected to respect each other and build trust with one another so that we can work globally. I don't care if the US and Russia are at war. My colleagues in Russia, I'm going to be working on projects together to solve problems. Now, what does this mean for my customer? Well, for my customer, it means I'm bringing to bear the best talent I can, given your requirements. Now, if you're a government entity and you can only staff from the United States, I'm only going to staff from the US. But if you can staff from anywhere in the world, right now on my project, I have folks from Israel, working with folks from Prague, working with folks from India, working with folks from the Western and Eastern United States. And together we're solving this problem. My client is calling it the dream team, which, yay. And I have Accenture working with Microsoft, working with my client to, again, solve the particular problem we're working on. So whether it's internal or external or across the board, that's why I work here. I gave a talk a few weeks ago saying that, you know, when I joined Accenture, I said, I'm drinking rainbow colored Kool-Aid. I don't care what it is. It tastes great. It's been 2.5 years. I am still drinking the rainbow colored Kool-Aid, which is why when Kathleen said, can you talk on this? I'm like, absolutely. I can talk on this because this is where I want to be. I do all that cool cyber stuff, but it's the culture that keeps me at Accenture. And it's the culture that brought me to Accenture. I had hard conversations. I mean, I was a pretty big person at the city of Phoenix in my area. One of the top 2 cyber folks, the CISO and I ran cybersecurity at the city of Phoenix. That's really kind of exciting and neat. And I get to work on things like Super Bowls and stuff like that across the entire state of Arizona, working with partners nationally. And this firm recruited me to be able to do this on a global scale. It's kind of fun, kind of neat. So that's the last slide I have. What other questions can I answer in the next 4 minutes before I really do have to jump to a client call?
Feel free to come off mute if you have any questions.
So, Tina, so my question is, what can we do for you? What, as a high school educator, as someone who's trying to get kids in the field, what can I do to get my kids into Accenture? What can I do to, what's the pathway? What do you recommend I start doing for my kids right now? You know,
Tell them we exist. Tell them there are global companies here in Phoenix. And we're not the only global company here in Phoenix. Have them dream big. Those interns that I interviewed, we've done 2 different, I've had the opportunity to do 2 different internship programs. They have to have a 3.5 to even get in the door to do an internship with me. Get excited, get passionate, focus on your education, and you could be working for a global company where they pay you to go around the world. My former intern, when I was working in mining, left Freeport to, work the mining company I was working for, to go to PwC, and now he's in Europe starting his own company. He was a freshman in college when he interviewed for the job. He beat out all the master's students. Why? Because he could articulate his passion in the area of cybersecurity, and he had the GPA to be invited to the table. So get your students excited about this. Grades matter if you're going to work for a top 3 or 4 consulting firm. Grades matter. So get them excited. Tell them the importance of this and launch the door. Let them know we exist. We're here in Phoenix. There are 20 cybersecurity folks for Accenture here in Phoenix. That's all we do. No one knows about us.
And I appreciate your passion. You know, I can feel your passion just coming through the screen right there. But my question is for the passionate kids, for the kids that are already, you know, yeah, I want to get into cybersecurity. What do I do, mister? You know, like, is there, you know, whose number do I give them? You know, whose business card can I pass on to them? You know, I'm looking for like straight up pathways. You know, I've got a kid right now, you know, a lovely young girl who was always chasing me down. Mister, what can I learn now? What can I do now? What, you know,
Okay,
you know,
so
some resources.
that's where the NICE framework is going to really help. because she's going to need to decide what area does she want to get in. We'll pretend she wants to be a penetration tester, a hacker that hacks applications. Great. Then she needs to be learning programming languages. She needs to set up a lab. She needs to work with the cyber warfare range. She needs to get experience. If this is the area she wants to be in, she needs to be researching and creating. You can get a junk laptop and create your own lab with WebGoat and stuff like that to practice it. That's what I want to see if you want to be a pen tester. If you want to be in threat intelligence in the threat area, you're going to be reading the news. You're just as you would be a journalist, you're going to be collecting that area. It's a whole different area. If you're into looking for anomalies and analysis, I want you to be a puzzle solver. You're going to be playing D&D. You're going to be playing video games. You're going to be looking for ways of identifying how to solve puzzles and problems. So if you do this, then you're going to be problem solving. So when you get into these KSAs and you determine where the students are interested, I'm happy, Kathleen will give you my contact information. I'm happy to work with you to help tie the interest into the areas, but they're going to have to choose. It's not all the same. I was told in college, point blank, do not code, do not program. I can't do it. The problems I solve are I network, I connect dots. I'm really good at that. That's the problem I solve. But I don't go in a traditional, I will never program a firewall. I will never be looking for anomalies in code. That's not what I bring. But I bring the networking and the management to solve problems by connecting the dots. So
that's a perfect way to end, and I am being respectful of your time. I know we will get your slides and your contact information to share, and we certainly thank you for being with us and helping us to kick off day one, Tina. I will share after you leave a few more things about all of the things you're engaged in to promote the development of talent, and we'll look forward to our next opportunities to do some stuff together.
Thanks, Kathleen. Thank you, everybody. You guys are the front line. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tina. Well, I know this has been a long morning. It's the fullest day we've got, although we've got, 2 presentations most of the day. Today you had 3 with our setup session, so I know you're ready for the day to close. I want to thank you all for your participation today. A couple of things. You do have an email already. You should have it in your inbox from Robin. Reminder about today's reflections. Our experience in doing these is if you do them and use the tools real time, it's really helpful with your project. And as a reminder, they get emailed back to you so that you've got them real time later on in the week as you really start to dig into the project time we have on this. We do have, for those of you who are interested in the part of the conversation on secure software development, I know that Heather Monthi from Honeywell will actually be talking about that. That's one of the things she's been working on. Some of you may remember her from Grand Canyon University, but she's at Honeywell right now. So she'll be talking more about that in the week. There is also the agenda that got sent out, so you can see ahead a little bit more about who the actual presenters are and the topics that they are presenting on. And we are be thinking about your feedback in all of this. We're asking you for the feedback about the process and the approach, but also the individual content from presenters. And that'll be confidential. We do an evaluation at the end, but be thinking about that. And this is the first time we've done this. We've got other industry specific sessions that will start later this summer, but cybersecurity was our first because it's so important. I would be happy for any feedback today and any questions also. I don't want to take up a lot of time, and if you don't have any questions for me, those are the only things that I wanted to share with you, other than we do start tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And with SRP, they've got a great presentation with Todd Stewart. I think he's presenting solo. And we also have a great presentation later tomorrow morning with PayPal. I'm excited about the diversity of the presenters and the organizations that they're in. So having someone with a utility infrastructure will be interesting tomorrow, as well as financial services. So that's all I had to share with you. Please check your inbox, or check the links for the Dropbox. We will be adding resources all week, including, I know some of you are familiar with the NICE framework already, but sometimes we forget about some of the basic resources that are really there to help us. We will be adding resources that you share with us and others throughout the week on the Dropbox. So thank you for diving into this with us today. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and the rest of the week. And for those of you who don't have any questions or anything else, feel free to check out and end the session. And then I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I'll stay here for anybody who has questions. Thanks, everybody.
Excuse me, do we have a deliverable, or are we just working on our project?
The project is the deliverable, Scott. And if you go back and look at the presentation that Robin did this morning that you have, and the links in there, that's in the Dropbox.
Okay.
And the deliverable for this week, and being respectful of your time and not asking for more than we think the 20 hours, including the presentations, will take. It's really how you're going to be using the resources and what you learned this week in your class, whether it is an actual series of classes that you're going to do based on this, whether you're planning on using the connections and the networks that you make through this and having people come in and do a speaker series, either virtually or in person. It might be sharing a series of the videos or snippets from the videos. All of those, oh, stop recording, speaking of which, all of those will be made available to you afterwards, so that you can look at them and figure out how you get to bring multiple people to your classroom via the videos. So that's